Welcome to the fundamentals of fat loss. I'm just going to hit a couple of hot topics, major points that I see people fall into some issues with fat loss. We're going to talk about fat loss and how it doesn't equal strength or scale weight. We're going to talk about how you can't out-train a bad diet. We're going to talk about calorie awareness, not extremes. We're going to talk about protein being a non-negotiable, steps and movement, strength training, weekends, and sleep. So let's get into it. Number one, fat loss does not equal scale weight. This is so important. I feel like especially for us beginners, when we first start out on a fat loss journey, we are looking at that scale like it is the end all be all. And in fact, it's really not. A lot of times the scale can lie to us, unfortunately. Typically when my beginners start working out, we are going to push and gain strength. When we are doing that, unfortunately, if you are checking the scale, sometimes you can see the scale actually move up. And that's when people start to freak out. And they're like, wait a second, I thought we were on a fat loss journey and the scale is actually moving up. However, what we are doing is gaining strength. Muscle is denser than fat. A lot of times you hear people say muscle weighs more than fat, which is not true. 5 pounds equals 5 pounds. But muscle is much denser. If you've ever seen like a 5-pound slab of fat and a 5-pound slab of muscle, they look a lot different. So fat loss comes from nutrition consistency. It does not come from training per se. It all works together, but we are in a fat loss phase. The fundamentals of fat loss comes from having a high protein diet, which we will get to, but it does not necessarily mean if you see the scale going up that you are not in the right direction. So I always like to warn people of that first. That is one of the major key in fat loss. On that same vein, point number 2, you cannot out-train a bad diet. While we do burn some calories while we are working out, that is not where the fat loss is coming. When we are working out, we are building muscle. And that is what we want to do. We want to build that muscle to help boost that metabolism so that when we are no longer working out, we are burning fat. So nutrition determines whether you're in a calorie deficit. It is so important. If we are in a fat loss phase, fat loss equals calorie deficit. There is no other way. And our nutrition is so important for that fat loss. You're not going to be able to outwork your bad diet. So if you are eating tacos, and I love tacos, donuts, ice cream, all of this stuff, and you're like, well, I worked out really hard, it should override. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. It doesn't even work like that for animals. Exercise supports fat loss, but it does not create it alone. And I've fallen into that trend of like, oh, I ate X, Y, and Z, especially over the holidays. I ate X, Y, Z, and so now I'm gonna just work out and train and train and train. And unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. So that brings us to point 3. Point 3 is calorie awareness does not equal extremes. So fat loss requires a small, sustainable deficit. So what this means is so often, especially like I said, after a holiday or something like that, I will see clients start to just go, I'm never eating carbs, I'm cutting out all sugar, I'm cutting out fat, I'm cutting out all this stuff, I'm just gonna be on salads and fruit and chicken. And 99.9% of my clients that do that relapse. And I say relapse, I know that's like a serious word for like serious things, but that's really what's happening. People go back to what they were doing before and they were like, oh my gosh, I'm so starving, I wish I could have this, I want this, and they binge. And I've done that about 5 billion times until I finally learned how to not do that. Overeating healthy foods still counts against your calorie deficit, and I've had that happen a lot. I don't want people to be like, oh, I can't have fruit because it has sugar in it. I don't like that idea. I like the idea of we're just gonna eat whole foods, things that are grown in the ground or come from the land, animals and fruits and vegetables. And we're going to be in a small calorie deficit. Typically, if I can have my clients start cutting out a lot of the processed foods, chips, anything that comes in a packet, anything that's in the pantry, you know what I'm saying? If we can start cutting those foods out, it will naturally put us in a little bit of a calorie deficit. And this is where tracking macros comes into play. And I know a lot of my clients will start to get freaked out when I say tracking macros. They get overwhelmed, they get scared, but we just need to be in a slight deficit, but we have to know where we're starting from. And usually changing to whole foods will help get to that deficit. We're also looking for consistency over perfection. So many of my clients, I feel like this happens to us whenever we feel like we've messed up on our nutrition. We just toss in the towel and we start again on Monday. And I want to give you the little nugget of like, let's say we're doing a budget. Let's say we have, $1,000 to spend or whatever it may be, and you go over what you plan to spend today to stay within that $1,000 budget. Are you just gonna say, well, screw it, just spend all the rest of the $900 today? No, you'd be like, I'm gonna be a little more mindful because I accidentally spent too much today and I only have X, Y, and Z to spend total. The same applies to your calories. We're not gonna just throw in the towel when we've gone a little bit over on one thing. We're gonna continue with the consistency over perfection. Next bullet point. Protein is a non-negotiable. Protein, I feel like, has great PR and everybody knows I should be eating protein, but do we know why? We should be eating protein because it preserves muscle while we are losing fat. So often, if you are familiar with someone like a runner, like a marathon runner, they're super slim. Like let's say somebody that runs, like if you see the Olympics or whatever, these high achieving runners, their body decided they are eating tons and tons of calories to be able to do that sport. Their body decided that muscle tissue, which is expensive tissue, it takes a lot to keep our muscle, which we want. If we lose all of our muscle, we're going to be old and break and die. Muscle tissue is expensive, and so those runners, their body decides to start paring down the muscle. That means taking away muscle, letting it deteriorate so that they can achieve their goal, which is running super long distances. But us, who are trying to just be healthy, happy adults, we want to preserve as much muscle as we can while we lose that body fat. And increasing the protein and making protein a non-negotiable is going to make us, first of all, stay fuller longer, satiated. We're not going to be as munchy and snacky, and we're going to keep that muscle as we lose and go into that deficit. Another reason protein is non-negotiable, it improves recovery and results from training. So often people will, work out really hard, or they go to the gym every day, but they're not seeing their bodies change. And that's actually because they're not fueling properly post-workout to repair the muscle that they broke down during their lift. Protein is a non-negotiable for that reason. Next bullet point, steps and daily movement matter. So fat loss just isn't during gym time. And I myself, from my journey, was really fixated on this. I'm like, oh, well, I went to the gym, I worked out super hard. I was also in the mindset of harder, better, faster, stronger. These all kind of correlate together. They're an intertwined web of ignorance. I was like, oh, if I work out harder, better, faster, stronger the rest of the day, whatever, I did a great workout. But I will say, if you are a regular person like you and me, we need to be moving throughout the day. We need to be taking steps. We need to be walking. We need to be getting up and moving around. We don't just need that 1 hour in the gym. We need to be getting 8,000 to 10,000 steps a day. And if you're starting out at, 1,000 or 2,000 and you feel like that's way far, we can work up in increments, but that should be our goal. And 10,000 is a little bit of an arbitrary number, but it keeps people's mindset on getting more activity. And us as humans should be moving. We should not be sitting. We should not be sitting at a desk. We were not designed to do that. And if you have to do that for work, so be it. You're gonna have to be double the mindfulness, and you're gonna have to be double on top of making sure you're moving around. Moving on to the next point. Strength training reveals the results. So if we circle back to nutrition is crucial for fat loss. No matter what you do in the gym, if you don't have your nutrition on lock, you're not going to see fat loss. You're not going to get the body that you're looking for. Same goes with strength training. So strength training reveals the results. So muscle shapes the body. So many people come up to me and tell me they just want to get a little bit toned. They just want to look a little bit better. They just want to feel better, look better, be able to go in their bathing suits, whatever it may be. But you need that muscle. You are not going to feel, you're not going to look like what you want to look like if you just stop eating all the sugar or stop eating, carbs. You're not going to get that physique that you're actually looking for. The second point is more muscle equals better metabolism. So like I mentioned, our body, muscle is expensive tissue. So our body works more efficiently when we have more muscle and we are fueling that muscle properly. So when people are super overweight, or they don't have a great metabolism because they've down-regulated it with sitting and not working out and eating poorly, when they start cutting calories, sometimes they don't see a drop. Like nothing happens because their metabolism is so down the drain, in layman's terms. So building that muscle up is a great place to start if you're on your fat loss journey, as well as eating that whole food, so that we can build up some muscle so that our metabolism starts revving up and it's like, oh wait, we are a working, functioning body now. We're not in the shitter. Our next bullet point, this is so important, and it took me a very long time to get this in my mind. The weekend counts. Let's split up the days. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Saturday, Sunday. Okay, that's 7 days. Let's say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we are on it. We are perfect. Then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we can't sustain and we lose it and we go out to eat and we just throw in the towel. That's 4 days of perfection versus 3 days of imperfection. Now, if we're doing the math, don't make me math, this is not a very good ratio. We would much rather the ratio be higher. It's almost half the time you're throwing in the towel and just going, screw it. So weekends count. Fat loss is about weekly averages. If you've ever had a baby and you weigh the baby, like the doctor weighs the baby or wants to know the baby's weight, it's over weekly averages. It's not day to day, because our body weight does fluctuate even in babies. We want to make sure that the whole week we are moving in the direction that we're looking for, whether it's fat loss, strength gains, etc. 1 or 2 off days can erase that consistency. And sometimes people may think, oh, it's just Saturday, it's just Sunday, it's just brunch. This is what I see a lot of people do, and I've fallen into this too. It's eating out, happy hour Friday. Okay, then I wake up on Saturday, I work out, I eat like a okay breakfast, but then lunch, dinner, we're eating out again. Then Sunday, you wake up, maybe you go to church, maybe you do whatever, and you have brunch. And you're like, well, I'm gonna splurge a little bit on brunch, have the other stuff, and then I'm gonna get back and eat a little bit for dinner. If you're counting meals and calories, that's a lot of time that you are out of that fat loss phase or deficit or whatever we're trying to get into for fundamentals of fat loss. Progress comes from repeatable habits. I'm not saying that you can never enjoy yourself on the weekend. I'm saying that you have to be consistently hitting the goals that you're trying to hit in order to see the results that you're trying to get. And my very last one, which is almost the most important. Honestly, they're all important, but very important. Stress and sleep. You need to sleep like your life depends on it, because it does. And this is really hard, and there's so many factors that go into sleep, like kids and stress and jobs and spouses and noise and whatever. You need to try your best to do everything in your power to get your sleep right. High stress and low sleep equals stalled fat loss. You have to think of your body as a machine. If your machine is not getting fueled properly, rest properly, it's not going to push itself. Your body is trying to sustain. Your body wants to take care of itself. Even if you're not taking care of yourself, your body's like, wait a second, we didn't even sleep last night. We're not gonna lose fat. We're not gonna push anymore. We're gonna just try and take care of ourselves. So if you're trying to make your body change, you have to take care of all those things that your body's trying to take care of. Sleep, water, nutrients, etc. Results come from stacking fundamentals over time. This is not a quick little fix. It's not a 7-day fix. It's not like, I see this a lot, especially with younger people and especially with moms or, people who have disrupted sleep. There's sometimes you cannot do anything about it. You cannot help if your child wakes up in the middle of the night. But what you can do is go to bed earlier. What you can do is turn off your phone in the bedroom. What you can do is put on dim lighting, read a book, not be on social media until midnight and then try and fall asleep and wake up at 3 a.m. because your baby woke you up and then start to work at 6. Like, that is just a recipe for disaster. All of those have to be controlled to the best of your ability in order to get your body to work how it should. In conclusion, fat loss isn't complicated. It's just the fundamentals done consistently. And sometimes people start to think that one is more important than the other, and I'm just going to do this and it'll work out to play. All of them are valuable and all of them are necessary. So if you can lock in on these fundamentals of fat loss, I guarantee that you will see and become a fitter version of you.